The rain hammered against the windows of our small cottage in the Cotswolds, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. For 20 years, Elysia had been my anchor, the calm in my often chaotic life as an IT specialist. We met at a local pub in Stow-on-the-Wold, her laughter as bright as the summer sun, her eyes the color of the rolling hills surrounding us. I was 42 when the first crack appeared in our seemingly perfect world. It started subtly late nights at work, hushed phone calls shed abruptly end when I entered the room, and a coolness that settled between us like a winter frost. I tried to dismiss it as stress. Elysia had taken on a new role as a marketing manager at a tech startup in Cheltenham, and I knew the pressure was immense. But the unease persisted, gnawing at me like a persistent toothache. One evening, while Elysia was supposedly at a conference in Bristol, I decided to surprise her with a delivery of her favorite lavender-scented bath bombs from a small shop in Burton-on-the-Water. I called her mobile to ask which hotel they were at, but it went straight to voicemail. That's odd, I thought. She usually answers. I checked her work calendar, which we shared, but there were no details of the hotel, just Bristol conference. I decided to drive to Bristol anyway, hoping to catch her for a quick dinner after her sessions. After visiting several hotels and asking at the front desks, I discovered that Next Gen Marketing Summit was held in Swindon, not Bristol. I felt like I was going crazy. Why would she lie about the location? My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat of dread echoing louder with each passing minute. I tried calling Elysia again, but still no answer. Frustrated and worried, I drove back home, the rain intensifying, blurring the road ahead. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed a car parked a few houses down, a sleek silver Audi I didn't recognize. I shrugged it off, attributing it to a visitor of one of our neighbors. But as I walked towards our front door, I noticed the faint glow of candlelight flickering through the living room window. Elysia always loved candles, but she knew I hated the smell, so she rarely lit them when I was home. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. The scene that unfolded before me shattered my world into a million pieces. Elysia was in the arms of a man, a stranger, his face buried in her hair. They were swaying gently to music I couldn't hear, the candlelight casting long, distorted shadows on the walls. The stranger pulled back and I saw his face. It was Quillan, Elysia's boss. He was laughing, a cruel, victorious laugh. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. Every detail of the room, the half-empty bottle of wine on the coffee table, the scattered rose petals on the floor, the intimate way Elysia's hand rested on Quillan's back seared itself into my memory. I stood frozen, unable to speak, unable to move. It felt like I was watching a movie, a nightmare unfolding before my eyes. Elysia finally noticed me, her face draining of color, her eyes widening in horror. Quillan turned around, a smirk playing on his lips. "Well, well, well," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Look who decided to join the party." The blood roared in my ears. I lunged at Quillan, fueled by years of suppressed anger and the raw, agonizing pain of betrayal. I landed a blow that sent him stumbling backward, knocking over a small table. Elysia screamed, trying to pull me away, but I was beyond reason. "How could you?" I roared, my voice cracking with emotion. "How could you do this to me?" Quillan, recovering quickly, pushed me back, his eyes filled with contempt. "She deserves better than you, Alaric," he sneered. "She's finally found someone who appreciates her." Elysia stood there, tears streaming down her face, saying nothing. Her silence was a deafening confirmation of my worst fears. I pushed past them both, stumbling out of the house and into the rain. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay there, not for another second. I drove aimlessly through the night, the rain washing over the windshield, blurring the already indistinct road. My mind raced, replaying the scene over and over again, each repetition more agonizing than the last. How could the woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, betray me in such a callous and cruel way? What had I done to deserve this? I pulled over to the side of the road, unable to drive any further. I sat there for hours, the rain drumming against the roof of the car, the tears streaming down my face, a broken, shattered man. The next few days were a blur of legal consultations, tearful phone calls to friends, and sleepless nights filled with tormenting memories. Elysia tried to talk to me, to explain, to apologize, but I couldn't bear to look at her. Her words were empty, meaningless, a hollow echo of the love we once shared. "I'm sorry, Alaric," she sobbed, her voice barely audible. "I never meant for this to happen. It just happened. It just happened," I repeated, my voice laced with bitterness. "You just happened to fall into another man's arms. You just happened to betray 20 years of love and commitment. Is that what you're telling me?" She didn't answer, her silence speaking volumes. I filed for divorce the following day. The process was agonizing, a constant reminder of the life we had built together, now crumbling to dust. Elysia contested the divorce, claiming I was being unreasonable, that we could work things out. But I was resolute. There was no going back, no repairing the damage that had been done. During the divorce proceedings, I discovered the extent of Elysia's deception. She had been systematically transferring money from our joint account into a private account, a nest egg for her and Quillan to start a new life together. She had also been secretly planning to sell our cottage, the home we had shared for so many years, without my knowledge or consent. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about the lies, the manipulation, the complete and utter disregard for my feelings and my future. I felt like I was living in a twisted version of reality, where the woman I loved had transformed into a cold, calculating stranger. My friends, bless their hearts, rallied around me, offering support and encouragement. One of them, Broderick, suggested I hire a private investigator to gather evidence of Elysia's affair and her financial misdeeds. I hesitated at first, not wanting to stoop to her level, but Broderick convinced me that it was necessary to protect myself and my assets. "You need to fight back, Alaric," he said, his voice firm. "She's not going to play fair. You need to be prepared." I reluctantly agreed, hiring a reputable investigator named Meredith. Meredith was professional and discreet, and she quickly uncovered a wealth of information about Elysia and Quillan's affair, including emails, text messages, and even photographs of them together on a romantic getaway to Paris. She also discovered that Quillan was married, and his wife, Isolde, was completely unaware of his infidelity. Isolde was a successful lawyer in London, a woman of integrity and principle. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, knowing the pain she was about to endure. After much deliberation, I decided to share the information with Isolde. I knew it was a risky move, but I couldn't stand by and watch her be deceived any longer. I contacted Isolde through a mutual acquaintance, arranging to meet her for coffee in a discreet location in Chipping Norton. When I told Isolde about Elysia and Quillan's affair, she was initially in disbelief. But as I presented her with the evidence Meredith had gathered, her face paled and tears welled up in her eyes. "I can't believe this," she whispered, her voice shaking. I trusted him completely. I offered her my condolences, sharing my own experience of betrayal and heartbreak. We sat there for hours, talking, sharing our pain, and finding solace in our shared experience. Isolde was grateful for the information, and she vowed to confront Quillan and take appropriate action. A few weeks later, I received a call from Isolde. She had confronted Quillan and he had admitted to the affair. She had filed for divorce and was seeking full custody of their 2 children. She had also reported Quillan's misconduct to his company, resulting in his termination. "Thank you, Alaric," Isolde said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You saved me from years of further deception and pain. I don't know how to repay you." "You don't have to repay me," I said. "Just knowing that I helped you find the truth is enough." Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings with Elysia were becoming increasingly contentious. She was demanding a large share of our assets, claiming she was entitled to it after 20 years of marriage. But with the evidence Meredith had gathered, I was able to expose her financial misdeeds and her affair to the court. The judge ruled in my favor, awarding me a fair settlement and denying Elysia's claims. Elysia was furious, accusing me of being vindictive and spiteful, but I stood my ground. I had been wronged and I was determined to seek justice. In the end, Elysia lost everything. She lost her husband, her home, her job, and her reputation. Quillan's wife divorced him and he was left penniless and alone. They had both destroyed their lives in pursuit of a fleeting, selfish desire. As for me, I was left with the scars of betrayal and the lingering pain of heartbreak. But I was also left with my integrity, my dignity, and the knowledge that I had done the right thing. It took time, but eventually I began to heal. I focused on my work, my friends, and my hobbies. I started hiking in the Cotswolds, finding solace in the beauty of nature. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I even started taking painting lessons, something I had always wanted to do but never had the time for. One sunny afternoon, while painting in my garden, I received a visit from Isolde. She had come to thank me again for my help and to share some good news. She had secured a new job at a prestigious law firm in Oxford and was moving to a new home closer to her children's school. "I am finally starting to feel like myself again," she said, her eyes sparkling with hope. "I am grateful for everything that happened, even the pain. It's made me stronger and more resilient." We talked for hours, sharing our stories, our dreams, and our hopes for the future. As she was leaving, she turned to me and smiled. "You know, Alaric," she said, "I think we're both ready for a new chapter in our lives." I looked at her, and for the first time in a long time I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance for happiness, even after everything I had been through. The rain had stopped and the sun was shining brightly, casting a warm glow over the Cotswolds. I took a deep breath, feeling the fresh air fill my lungs. It was a new day, a new beginning, and I was ready to face it with courage, with hope, and with a renewed sense of purpose. Years passed. I never remarried, but I found companionship and joy in my friendships and my hobbies. I continued to paint, exhibiting my work in local galleries and even selling a few pieces. Isolde and I remained close friends, supporting each other through the ups and downs of life. We never became romantically involved, but our bond was strong and enduring, forged in the crucible of betrayal and loss. Elysia, I heard through mutual acquaintances, had moved to London with Quillan, but their relationship had quickly soured. They were both miserable, haunted by the consequences of their actions. One cold winter evening, I received a letter from Elysia. It was a long, rambling apology, filled with regret and remorse. She admitted that she had made a terrible mistake, that she had thrown away something precious for a fleeting moment of passion. She begged for my forgiveness, not for her sake, but for her own peace of mind. I read the letter slowly, carefully, feeling a mix of emotions: sadness, anger, and a strange sense of pity. I knew that forgiving her wouldn't erase the past, but it would free me from the burden of resentment and bitterness. So I wrote her back. I told her that I forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because I needed to move on with my life. I wished her well, hoping that she would find happiness and peace in the future. I sealed the letter, dropped it in the mailbox, and walked back to my cottage, feeling a sense of closure I hadn't felt in years. As I sat by the fire, sipping a glass of wine, I thought about all that had happened: the pain, the betrayal, the loss, but also the resilience, the growth, and the hope. I had survived, I had thrived, and I had emerged stronger and wiser from the ashes of my shattered world. And that, I realized, was the greatest revenge of all.